Something crazy happened to me last night, and it was the first time in my life where I ever felt like truly like I had fully found God. So I thought it would be a good time to come on here and share my story of how I went from not being religious, how I went from pretty much not believing in God and just not understanding God at all and feeling like there was no connection there, to really developing that insane connection and fully just finding peace with myself and peace with God. And I want to preface this by starting my story and saying that I grew up going to Catholic school. I grew up raised as a Roman Catholic, and I was taught my entire life the Catholic religion. Now, when you're in a Catholic school, some of you guys might have experienced this if you had gone to Catholic school, but it feels almost forced upon you. I'm very young. I don't have interest in school in general, so I wasn't really interested in learning, especially in religion class and in church. And I would just kind of sit there in church mindlessly and not think too much of it. I just didn't really care too much about it. I prayed every night, but I didn't really understand the purpose behind it because I wasn't educating myself and because I wasn't trying to build that connection with God. I was just kind of going through the motions. I would pray just to pray, just for the act of prayer, and not really to actually develop anything with God. As I got older, however, I went to a public high school. And once I went to public high school, I didn't have to go to church anymore, so I didn't. I stopped going to church. I eventually whizzled out and stopped praying. And this went on towards the end of high school, especially. Now, at the end of high school, I was in a relationship. The relationship drew me further away from God. She wasn't religious, but that doesn't matter to this point. It doesn't matter. But that drew me further away from God. And I felt like there was really no connection there. I hadn't prayed for years. I just didn't really care to, and I had no reason to. And this continued to go on until freshman and sophomore year of college. It continued to go on. And then at the start of sophomore year of college, this is when the story starts to take a turn. That girl had broken up with me. And I had not gone back to God. I had not prayed. I had not done anything. And I was so messed up from this experience. I was so depressed over the breakup. And I had nobody to turn to. I felt like I could talk to my friends, but I just felt like I didn't want to. Because I felt like I held myself to a high standard and I couldn't speak about these things because I was embarrassed to. And I remember one day my roommate had asked me to go to church, and I went with him, and I remember crying in church. And I've said this before on here if you guys have watched me for a while, but I remember crying in church, and that was the first time where I truly felt a small connection to God. And now what happened the other night is much more extreme, so we'll get into that. But yeah, so essentially I started crying in church, just little tears, and I kind of realized that I needed to get closer to God. I needed to find that because I felt that small connection start to build the second I got back into church, and I realized how beneficial it was. So I started praying every night. I started these new habits again. I started reading my Bible again on occasion, which I literally had got a Bible for my confirmation and hadn't opened it until 5 years later. And I started to try and educate myself a little bit more. And as I started to pray every night, I noticed my quality of life got a little bit better. Whenever this first started, I had no money to my name. I was in debt. I hated my life. I was depressed. I was lonely. I didn't feel like anything was going for me. Through that prayer, I found the passion to start my first business, which you guys who follow me obviously know what that business is. I'm a fitness coach. And that business genuinely fulfilled me. And I remember signing my first client and seeing his transformation and just how incredible it made me feel. And that brought me closer to God too, just because it was such a beautiful experience being able to change somebody's life and calling it my living. And I was able to quit my job and kind of do that full time. And now I've been doing this full time for around 6 months now. And every day I feel like I get a little bit closer to God. I felt like I was taking a small stepping stone. And I just became more and more thankful for the life that I was living. I used to spite God because I didn't like my life. I used to spite God because I was depressed with my life. And I used to feel like everything was stacked up against me. And then I had that mental shift and really understood that the life I wanted was on the other side of me actually pursuing that life. And once I started to pursue it, and once I started to thank God instead of asking him, once I started to thank him for the things that were already in my life, he gave me new opportunities. And I didn't understand that's how it worked. I thought if I just begged God for me to give me these things, he would give them me, but that's just not how it works. You have to be thankful for who you are and where you are, and I promise God will put those blessings into your life. You have those dreams, you have those goals in your head. God would not put them in your head if he did not think you were capable. And I need you to understand that off the rip. The dreams that you have, the person that you want to be, God has put that vision into your head because he knows that you can become that person. But it's on you to become it. He's not going to do the work for you. He's simply going to show you what you're capable of, and then you can go and become that person. So I started to become that person. I worked harder every single day. I started to finally get my body in check, my mindset in check. I started to feel happy about myself. And this went on, like I said, for 6 months until last night. And for those 6 months, like I said, I was getting better and better every single day. I was feeling more fulfilled every single day. And just the other night, something crazy happened. And I remember I was in my car after a long day. I was hanging out with friends, and out of nowhere, I just started praying out loud, just impulsively, and thanking God for everything in my life. I just had an incredible week for my business. I had re-signed some clients who had crazy progress, signed new clients, just was getting crazy transformations. I feel the most confident I've ever felt. I was the most happiest I've ever been. And I just started thanking God out loud for all of this, unprompted. And this went on for around 5 minutes of me just thanking God and me just saying, thank you so much for the life that I'm living. And after I ended that prayer, I tried to put on rap music because that's what I usually listen to, and I couldn't do it. And I remember so vividly, I put on worship music because I'd never listened to it, but I thought it was fitting. And I put on the worship music, and my entire body was engulfed in chills. And I'm driving, and I just started bawling my eyes out, just crying hysterically. And I had to pull over for 20 minutes and just cry my eyes out for no apparent reason. And when that was finished, I genuinely felt like that was the first time that I was fully one-to-one with God. I was fully so connected with God. And it's something I hope each and every one of you experiences, because it's genuinely the most life-changing thing that has ever happened to me. I understand now that my life is fueled by God, and the man that He has envisioned me to be, the man that He shows me I can become, is the man that I'm going to become. And you're going to watch me become that man every single day on this channel. You're going to watch me become that man every single day on my Instagram, because that is the person He wants me to be, and I know exactly what He wants me to pursue now. I never felt that close to God. I never felt like there was a real connection there. But I promise you, if you keep developing your relationship and you keep just pursuing more, you keep pursuing your understanding, and you keep thanking God for the life that you live, I promise He hears you. I promise He answers. I know it's hard, and I know it seems sometimes like your prayers might not get answered, but sometimes you have to take a step back and just be thankful for what you already have and envision who you want to be. And I promise you, God is putting that vision in your head for a reason. I really just wanted to share this with you guys. This just happened so randomly, and I'm so thankful it did, because it was truly a life-changing experience. And I hope this was helpful to you, and I hope that this kind of fueled your passion to learn more about God, and just fueled your passion to pursue that deeper relationship with God, because I promise you, He loves you, and He wants to see you become the person that you envision in your head. I love you guys. I hope this was helpful.